The desert wind carried a dry whisper that morning, the kind that made even the bravest men feel small beneath the vast Arizona sky. Luke Mercer wiped the sweat from his brow and leaned on his shovel, the sound of metal striking hard-packed earth echoing through the canyon. He'd been digging since sunrise, just a simple well, he thought, a way to bring water closer to the new shack he was building on the edge of Apache land. But the deeper he dug, the stranger things became. The soil turned cooler, softer, almost damp. Then, the hollow thud beneath his boots made him freeze. He crouched low, running a calloused hand over the ground. Something was down there, not rock, not clay. Hollow space. He dug faster, the shovel biting deeper until the dirt gave way, revealing an opening. Dust swirled into his face. He coughed, squinting into the darkness, and saw what looked like a tunnel, old, maybe hand-dug long ago. Luke hesitated, then lowered himself in, his boots scraping the walls. The air was cool, heavy with the smell of smoke and damp earth. He raised his lantern, and froze. The tunnel widened into a small chamber. Animal hides hung on the walls, dried herbs dangled from wooden beams, and the faint glow of embers burned in a pit at the far end. He wasn't alone. A soft gasp echoed from the shadows, and before Luke could turn, a figure emerged, tall, wrapped in woven blankets, her face half covered but her eyes sharp and burning like amber. An Apache woman. For a moment, neither spoke. The tension hung heavy between them, the trespasser and the widow whose world he'd just broken into. Luke raised his hand slowly, his voice low, steady. "Didn't mean no harm, ma'am. I was diggin' for water, didn't know this was your place." The woman's jaw tightened. She gripped a long wooden spear, its tip carved with stone. "White men always dig," she said coldly, her accent heavy but her English clear. "Dig for gold, dig for graves, dig for what is not theirs." Luke's chest rose and fell. "Ain't like that, I'm just tryin' to live, same as anyone." The firelight flickered across her face then, revealing lines of sorrow that time hadn't softened. Her hair was dark as the canyon night, her hands strong, weathered. She studied him a long time before lowering her weapon, but not by much. "You stand in my husband's shelter," she said. "He built this place before the soldiers came. Before they took him." Luke's throat tightened. He stepped back, guilt creeping into his voice. "I'll fill the hole, leave it as it was." "No," she said, and the word carried something unexpected, not anger, but loneliness. "The hole is open now. You cannot close it." He didn't understand her meaning, but something about her tone made him stay. The woman moved to the fire, tossing dried sage onto the coals. Smoke curled upward, and the small room filled with a strange, sweet scent. "You dig for water," she murmured. "Water is life. Perhaps you found something else." Luke didn't reply. His eyes drifted to the wall, carvings etched into stone. Apache symbols, spirals, arrows, and one shape that looked like an open hand. It pulsed in the lantern light, like it was alive. "Your husband do all this?" he asked quietly. She nodded once. "He was a dreamer. Said the earth remembers what men forget." Luke felt the weight of those words. The earth did remember. It remembered every grave he'd buried back in Texas, his brother, his father, even the woman he'd loved and lost to fever. Maybe that's why he came here, to start again, to dig into the dirt and find something that didn't hurt anymore. The woman, whose name he still didn't know, turned to him suddenly. "You will eat," she said simply, gesturing to a clay bowl near the fire. "Then you will tell me why you came here." He hesitated. "Ain't my place to." Her gaze silenced him. She wasn't asking. He sat on the cold ground, took the bowl, and tasted the stew, thick with herbs, strange but warm. She watched him, her eyes unreadable. "You are alone," she said after a long silence. Luke nodded. "Most times, yeah." She tilted her head. "Then we are the same." Something shifted between them, a quiet understanding. The desert outside was cruel, but inside that hollow, it felt different. Safe, almost sacred. As the night deepened, Luke learned her name, Nayeli. Widow of a man who'd died fighting for land that was never returned. She spoke little, but when she did, her words carried the weight of a lifetime. He listened, drawn to her calm strength. When he finally climbed out of the hole, dawn had broken over the plains. The first light touched his face, and for the first time in years, he felt like he'd uncovered more than just earth. He looked back down at the dark opening in the ground, hearing her voice echo faintly from below, "You cannot close what the earth opens." Luke stood there for a long time, his heart heavy and alive all at once. Something told him that hole, and the woman beneath it, had just changed everything. Luke couldn't sleep that night. The prairie wind howled through the cracks of his half-built shack, rattling loose boards like whispers from the canyon. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her, the Apache widow, her face lit by firelight, her voice steady as stone. You cannot close what the earth opens. It wasn't a threat, but a truth. One he couldn't ignore. At dawn, with his coffee still steaming, he grabbed his shovel and went back to the hole. The morning sun bled across the desert in long orange bands, turning the sand to gold. The opening he'd dug yesterday looked different now, wider, almost like the ground itself had shifted overnight. He crouched beside it, listening. Somewhere deep below, faintly, came the sound of singing. Not in English, Apache words, low and haunting. He swallowed, tightened the rope around a nearby post, and began lowering himself again. The air grew cooler the deeper he went, carrying the scent of sage and earth. When his boots hit the floor, the fire was already burning. She was waiting for him. Nayeli, you came back, she said without looking up. She was grinding herbs with a stone, her long dark braid falling over one shoulder. Luke brushed the dust from his coat. Guess I couldn't help it. You've got something down here that don't belong to the world up there. She looked at him then, calm, but with eyes that seemed to see right through him. The world above forgets. Down here, the earth remembers. Luke smiled faintly. You said that yesterday. Because it's true every day, she replied. Men dig for gold, for oil, for power. But you, her gaze softened. You dug into memory. He frowned, unsure what she meant, but before he could ask, she handed him a carved wooden bowl. Drink, she said. Inside was a dark, bitter liquid that smelled like smoke and pine. He hesitated, then took a cautious sip. The taste burned at first, then cooled in his throat. His vision blurred for a heartbeat, and suddenly he felt it, the walls around him pulsing faintly, alive with ancient energy. The fire crackled louder, shadows dancing on the stone like spirits. What is this? He whispered. Medicine, she said quietly. For those who seek truth. He set the bowl down, his pulse quickening. Truth about what? Nayeli moved closer, kneeling across from him. Your dead still speak. The earth heard them before you did. His breath caught. How do you? She reached out and placed her palm against the dirt floor. Last night, when you slept, they came to you. Didn't they? Luke's voice faltered. He had dreamt, or thought he had, of a field back in Texas, his brother Jacob standing by a campfire, blood on his shirt, whispering his name. He hadn't told anyone that. Couldn't. Yet she said it like she'd been there. Maybe I just miss him, he said hoarsely. She shook her head. The hole you dug didn't open into my shelter. It opened into what lies between. The place where the living meet the memory of the dead. Luke looked around, at the carvings, the flickering symbols, the faint hum in the air. His stomach tightened. You saying this place is cursed? No, she answered softly. It is blessed, but blessings are heavy things. They sat in silence. The fire popped, sending sparks into the air. Nayeli began humming again, the same low melody he'd heard earlier. It was beautiful, ancient, filled with something more than sorrow, a promise. Luke found himself speaking without knowing why. When I left Texas, I buried my wife near the river. She was sick. I told myself I'd start over out here, maybe forget. But I ain't forgotten a thing. Nayeli listened, her eyes never leaving his. You think forgetting brings peace. But it only buries pain until it grows roots. He stared into the fire, her words sinking deep. And what about you? He asked. Your husband. She lowered her gaze. He died with a bullet meant for me. The soldiers said it was an accident. The land they took after was not. Her voice trembled, but only for a moment. I dug this place myself, she added. To keep him close. The earth opened for me too. Luke felt something stir in him, respect, sorrow, maybe something more. Two souls, different worlds, same grief. Then the ground rumbled softly beneath them. Not much, just enough to shake the fire. Nayeli rose quickly, grabbing a small drum from the wall. She began beating it rhythmically, chanting under her breath. The sound vibrated in Luke's bones. What's happening? He shouted over the drum. She didn't answer at first. When she did, her voice was sharp. You brought your pain down here. The earth hears it. You must give it back before it grows. The walls pulsed, glowing faintly with light from the carvings. Luke stumbled backward, heart pounding. For a moment, he thought he saw faces, faint, smoky outlines, his brother, his wife, people long gone, swirling like ghosts through the air. He fell to his knees, gripping the dirt. What do I do? He gasped. Speak their names, Naeli said firmly. All of them. He did, one by one, voice shaking. Jacob, Mary, Pa, the names spilled from him like blood, raw and heavy. Each one seemed to pull a weight off his chest. The rumbling slowed, the fire steadied, the faces faded. When it was over, he was trembling, drenched in sweat. Naeli knelt beside him, her voice softer now. Now you understand. The hole you dug is not for water. It's for healing. Luke looked up at her, exhausted but calm. What happens now? She smiled faintly, a sadness in her eyes. Now, the earth decides whether to close it or not.